Buck, what's happening today? How are you?
Hey, what's up, y'all? How you doing? Great
How
to
are
be
you?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
man,
are you doing?
I'm doing great. Everything's great, I just got back from Maui, which, I mean, it was,
That's okay.
I wish I could have stayed longer, but we celebrated Stephen's birthday, and it was pretty amazing. And now I'm home for the rest of the month, mostly, and then get ready to gear up to go out for the summer.
So you weren't performing in Maui. You just went for Steven Tyler's birthday?
Well, no, we did a show there.
Okay.
Alice Cooper's manager, Shep Gordon, put on a concert, and we were there. Just kind of threw it together. It was Mick Fleetwood on drums and me on acoustic guitar and keyboard, and Steven singing, and just a hodgepodge of amazing musicians, legends, and then there's me. Just kind of like pinching myself. I'm on stage with these cats. I got to sit in with Neil Finn. He happened to be there, and he said, "Would you want to come up and play organ on Don't Dream It's Over?" I was like, "Yes, please." And so that was pretty surreal as well.
And there you are, a guy from West Birmingham. Who knows where Inslee Minor and all that is? That's kind of redneck.
Adamsville, Alabama.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
I know. It is crazy.
Yeah. So how is Steven doing? Is he all right? Give fans a good Steven Tyler story. You've done that before for me, but just one that jumps off at you that we wouldn't know.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know, man. There's so much about him that is complicated and charismatic. You can only imagine. He is a beautiful human being. He's loud. He's boisterous, but he has a very giving heart. He does a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't see, and it's not always the big donations. Although he has his Janie's Fund, which is a fund that raises money and awareness and takes care of abused women and children. So he does quite a bit of work there. But, we're on this, I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, when we're in Rio de Janeiro, we're on the streets having a bike ride and walking, and he comes up to these street merchants, and then there's families that live on the beach. That's where they live. And these little girls come up, and he starts just handing them pieces of jewelry, which is, not expensive, handmade stuff, but
right.
And he just, does little things like that he just shows what kind of heart he has. But he's doing great. He's the youngest 70-year-old you'll ever meet in your life. He just seems to never stop, always on the move, and we've got one show coming up this year in Jazz Fest in New Orleans on Cinco de Mayo. And then we've got other stuff going on. And then 2019, 2020 look to be big years for Aerosmith. 2020 is the 50th anniversary of Aerosmith, and with the same 5 guys. So that's pretty impressive.
How crazy is that? Insane.
That is crazy.
50 years with anybody with your kids is unbelievable, right? I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, well, they've had their breakups along the way, but they're all back together, and they've been that way for a while, and just really blessed, and they've just got so much great material, and they're just such a they play together on stage instinctively. It's just as I always say, it's a freight train about to come off the rails, but somehow never does, and they just. It's so much fun to be on stage with them and see when they circle up, and that's like, okay, there's the band. They're jamming together because they don't know where we're going next. We're just jamming at this point, and I love that. I love being, in the moment.
So how do you fit in with your talent, which is immense, without stepping on toes and those kind of things?
Well, there's certain parts that are, that you got to play that are signature parts, and then there's parts where we'll do like, the old Fleetwood Mac song, "Oh Well," and we're just jamming, and they'll let me take a little ride on the organ, and it's just, you trust in your instincts, being in the moment, knowing that there are knowing when not to play, when to stay out of the way, laid back. It's just experience, you do it and trust your ears, and but most of the time I'm just like, if you don't see me or notice me, I'm doing a good job. You know, it's about those guys.
You're like a football official, right? If we don't notice you, it's going good.
Exactly. That's usually a great drummer. Almost you see what they're doing, but if you don't notice things, or a bass player, same thing. They're just solid. They hold it all together. They anchor everything. And so my job is to accentuate what they do. Be a support for the guitars and a support vocally with Steven.
Mac Powers, I guess, yesterday, lead vocalist of Third Day. They're breaking up after 25 years, I think.
Wow.
But he always told me he's a Bama freak like you are. And he always said when he was touring in the fall, they'd take a music interlude. He wanders to the side of the stage to get a score.
All right.
You're a Bama freak. Have you done that? Are you guilty of that?
Oh, are you kidding me? All the time. I mean, I can't, when I'm in the Aerosmith world, the show for 2 hours, there's no cell phones. You've got to be on point but there are, like, as soon as the show's over, I'm running, grab my phone, what happened, getting all the details, make sure it was taped. We have the ability now, no matter where in the world, you can, through different devices, you can watch, replay the game. So I just try not to know. Sometimes I want to see the game, so I don't want to know what's happened, so I can enjoy it myself. I was in L.A. rehearsing with Joe Perry. He has an album out this year, and we're rehearsing, and it's during the national championship game, of course. And I just can't, I'm in this small room with Joe Perry and the DeLeo brothers from STP, Stone Temple Pilots. And I've got to be focused in the moment, but I'm just, got to know what's going on. Of course, we quit about somewhere in the middle of the third quarter, I guess. And I'm glad I didn't see any of the first part of the game, because from there on, it was pretty exciting what was happening. And, I think last time you and I talked, you asked me what I think about the season. I said, well, I think that it has potential to be a special season, which I think it was. And I have to just pat myself on the back. I said, now I think the Iron Bowl will determine who wins the West, which it did. So there you go.
For your predictions. But, all right, so if you came along in the third quarter, you see Tua Tagovailoa at quarterback, you're kind of going, what the heck is happening here?
Well, all the backline guys and the sound engineer were in the other room, and they were obviously not paying attention to what we were doing. They were watching the game, so they filled me in on what had happened. That he said your quarterback wasn't looking so great, so they put the backup in, and he's slinging it. And but what can you say? I mean, you've got a double threat there with JN and Tua, and it might turn around the other way around. Maybe there might be a game where Tua is struggling and Jalen comes in, and I just hope they both can stay there, and see the value of helping each other out there in the team.
How did this begin in Adamsville, West Alabama, this Alabama football deal you got going on?
Well, like most people, it's your family, and my father is an Alabama fan, and not everybody in my family is. A lot of them are Auburn fans, it's evenly divided in some cases, but my dad followed it, and we that's one thing, father-son thing, and I just became passionate about it as well. I used to listen to it on the radio before it was always on TV, and with a wishbone, and I remember as a little kid watching us lose to Notre Dame in the '73 Sugar Bowl and just crying my eyes out because it's really small and everybody was upset, and I think that's what sealed the deal for me, is when I became a big fan.
What, losing to Notre Dame made you become a big fan?
Yeah, because it was so heartbreaking. I was so upset and mad. I thought we should have won the game, and from there on out, I became even more passionate about following it. I think we'll get them next year. I know it's crazy to say, but losing a game, it was like it motivated me to really become more of a fan.
All right, so I've got to ask you, like I did Mac Powell, because I thought of this. I interviewed Rich Wingo, who you remember was on the goal line stand in 1979, one of the linebackers. And biggest moment, I think there's two Is it the goal line stand for you, or is it Tua's touchdown? Both won national championships. One ended the game immediately. The goal line stand happened in the third quarter, but it basically ended that. That's two iconic moments.
Well, the Tua's touchdown is so fresh and new. It hasn't really sealed its, the time. It's like it hasn't aged as well. It's like the fish story. The fish hasn't gotten bigger and bigger each year. Right. So I would have to say, just being a kid, the goal line stand was pretty phenomenal because I think if Penn State had scored, they probably would have won the game. Or at least it would have, stayed a tie, and then Alabama wouldn't have won the national championship. But, I don't know, man. The Tua's touchdown was just, what can you say? It was the last play of the game, so that might overtake the goal line stand.
I know. That's the thing, because the goal line, I totally forgot the goal line stand was in the third quarter, because it seems like an end-of-a-game thing. But it wasn't. But as you said, if they scored there, it's a totally. I think it basically did end the game, though. But
that's the way it felt. Yeah.
So sure. I don't know. That's going to be crazy. So do you follow? How close do you follow it? Do you follow recruiting? Are you keeping up with spring training right now?
I do a little bit. It's kind of like a nice hobby thing to, not every day, but some days I don't have time or I'm traveling but it's a nice just to catch up, see what's happening, who's, there is no depth chart, but you kind of get a guess at who's what's going on from, I don't follow every practice, but, in recruiting, I just know that they're going to always get, who they need and who they want. They may not be number one every year in recruiting, but I don't know if that matters as much, but I think next year they'll probably have a great recruiting year. Until fall gets here, fall camp, then I get a little more involved in what's going on and, just pray for no injuries and that kind of stuff.
When's the last time you went to a game? I don't think I've asked you that before.
Oh yeah. Gosh, it's been a while. I'm always, traveling and working. I think the 2009 LSU Alabama game, which was a great one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right,
Julio's big touchdown.
Oh yeah, off Patrick Peterson, classic.
Yep. Classic.
I asked Mac this, and he kind of freaked me out with the answer yesterday. I said, have you ever met Nick Saban? He goes, oh no, I'd be scared to death. You would be just a normal bumbling fan if you met Nick Saban, or would you be cool and be the backup singer for Aerosmith?
No, I'd probably be a fan. It's funny because at Steven's birthday party, I go up to the bar and I'm standing, and Mick Fleetwood comes over and says, "Yeah, great job." And we talking, and here comes Stevie Nicks coming up. I'm standing here and having a conversation with Stevie Nicks and Mick Fleetwood, and it's like, this is kind of surreal, this is weird, but they're just down to earth, normal people. And we're talking music and that kind of stuff, and it's pretty cool. But there are those outside of your own world. Don't get me wrong. It's hard not to be a fan when you're around legendary people who are great performers and so forth. But Nick Saban, I would probably be a little more nervous.
We need to arrange that, though. You need to get to a game,
yeah,
too.
Man, are you kidding me?
There in Nashville.
Yeah, we need to bring Nick Saban to an Aerosmith concert, get him backstage, and then my head will explode. He
would probably do that, by the way. So we need to talk about that as we go. All right, tell us what you're doing. You've got your own music, kind of a acoustic country rock kind of thing, but then you're also touring with the Hollywood Vampires this summer. It's like you never take a break, man.
Well, when the work is coming in, you got to take it. In my world, it can be feast and famine. So I'm very fortunate and blessed of late to get the calls to work with. I did worked with Joe Perry and for his new record, and there may be more Joe Perry stuff coming up later in the year. But then Hollywood Vampires, because Joe Perry, it's Joe Perry, Alice Cooper, and Johnny Depp. I don't know, for those who know, Hollywood Vampires was started in like early 70s in Hollywood, and Alice Cooper and his consorts were is a drinking club basically, and Alice was the president, and they had a lair up in the top room at the Rainbow Room, and next to the Roxy, and so it was, you know, cats like Keith Moon, Ringo Starr, Harry Nilsson, John Lennon, Mark Bolan. Anyway, they've either died or Alice Cooper might be the last man standing, him and Ringo. But so Alice decided, you know, to put this together, and they've written, they had an album, and they're working on another one, but the album's out there. So we do some originals, but it's a lot of covers of some of those great rock stars who were part of that or who they admire, like, you know, David Bowie, you know, we do The Who, that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun, but they take their own take to it, you know, their own arrangement. And so I'll be out there with these guys starting end of May. We do some U.S. dates in the Northeast, and then the European tour starts in Moscow on the 28th of May, and then we end, I think, July 8th in Rome.
Wow. That's awesome. A bus ride with Joe Perry, Alice Cooper, and Johnny Depp. That wouldn't be fun.
No,
how weird is that?
I mean, it's weird, but you know, when you're around these guys, you know, we're so focused on talking about music and stuff. You know, Alice is obviously, as many people know, he's a scratch golfer. He's an amazing golfer, so he sticks to his routine. You know, he golfs every day practically, and you know, takes a nap and then goes do a rock show. And so, but they're wonderful people to work with, and you know, after a while, the idea of being a movie star or rock star fades away, and you just become, you know, Miss Johnny or Joe. And but really fortunate. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you happen to be in Europe this summer, you know, it'd be a great show to catch.